Oh, the everyday struggles of a wannabe writer. Hey guys, this is MPig, and today I decided to talk about my main hobby right now, or what I wish to be my main hobby if it wasn't for the fact that I was so distracted and scatterbrained all the time. And this is basically me wanting to become a writer. For the longest time here, I've always had little ideas buzzing around in my head that I thought would make really excellent stories. And I would usually go in and, start outlining stuff and usually write about the first fifth of the first chapter, and usually I'd send it around to people and people would be like, oh wow, this is actually pretty good, you should continue writing this. And I look at them and I go, are you kidding? This is complete crap. Unless I send it to Brett, in which case it's like, man, we need to do a dramatic reading of this on YouTube because this is hilarious. And I'm like, oh gee, thanks Brett, make sure and do that some more. No, let me not complain about that poor soul that I am constantly ignoring right now, or so he says. But with my writing, I tend to notice that I write the dialogue first, and usually it turns out like crap on the first draft, because all first drafts are usually terrible. As I've been noted by many writers, it's pretty much first draft is you just getting your ideas out there, not to be discouraged by the fact that usually it turns out like a steaming pile of crap. Then later on, you end up refining that, continuing to work on the outline, trying to find interesting ways to tell this story in a way that hasn't necessarily been told before, and then you just sort of, what ends up happening with me is that I will get a new idea, and I'll start to think, wow, this idea is even better than the old idea, and I'll scrap the old story, which is a horrible idea, by the way, and end up working on the new one. And this has happened like 4 or 5 times, and by the time I've scrapped so many stories, I probably could have finished the one novel I was working on at the very beginning of this whole process. I think I've probably switched subjects, switched characters and everything about 4 or 5 times. I've pretty much started writing a brand new novel. And the issue with this is, again, I don't get anything done. And all my other geeky hobbies and habits get in the way. Like, which would I rather do? Would I rather write and really get into my characters, or would I rather watch Chobits? Well, I'm going to watch Chobits right now, and then I'll get some writing done. Oh, now I have homework. Well, I'll make sure and do the homework, and then I'll get my writing done. Never mind about the homework. Let me just watch another episode of Chobits. Great, now I don't have any time to do my writing. Now I just have to quickly do my homework. And the process goes on and on and on and on and on. The thing that's so awesome, though, and the thing which is why I think I would really like writing as a career, is that I'm not too physically coordinated. I'm not like the most hands-on kind of guy. I mostly live in my own head for the most part, and so I love the sorts of things like little artsy stuff. I'm not much of a drawer, but I've always liked film, and I was thinking about being a filmmaker for a long time there before I realized that the problem with being a director or being a camera guy is that it's way too technical for me. While with writing, there is technicalities behind it, and it certainly is a detail-oriented process, but it seems to be more my kind of thing, because I can just live in my own environment, live in my own head for a long time, spill out the thoughts, create the characters, and craft the whole thing without really having to communicate too much with other people on what exactly I want. All you have to do is communicate with me and pretty much say, alright man, this is how it goes. We're going to have this chick over here at this point in the story, and then we're going to have this guy, and then he's going to kill her, and then there's going to be some kind of crazy chaos that happens from this. And the main theme of this whole thing is happiness, or something along those lines. Themes are very important for me. And the thing I also love is being able to, and this is coming from a completely almost creepy perspective, I suppose you could say, is actually creating people that I would actually like to write for, where they start becoming, after a while, like real people. They start feeling like people that you've been around for a long time when you really get into your writing. Like, I wish the main characters of the story that I'm currently writing, I really wish those people actually existed, because to me they just seem like genuinely people that I would relate to, because obviously you're going to pour your own experiences into something regardless of how different your characters are. As a writer, you tend to analyze and go, alright, so, how can I find some kind of emotional connection with this particular sort of event that I've come up with, or how can I relate this with somebody else who has had this sort of event? And that's what I think is most important, is that characters stay consistently real. And the way to keep them consistently real is by keeping it true to yourself and keeping it true to your observations of life. So that's what I've been trying to do, and that's why I love my characters so much, is because I look at them and I can feel them. You can feel that connection. They're almost like a daughter or a son or a wife or whatever close connection that you can come up with. They usually fill in that sort of a role. And of course, my stories also tend to be incredibly mushy-gushy, as some people have already noted that they're like, why do you keep on writing romances? And I really don't see my stories as romances. There's always a little bit of a romance in there. It always finds its way in, because all my favorite sorts of stories are all based around the concept of love, and how love sort of binds us and connects us to the world, and so on and so forth, and all that other mushy-gushy bullshit that doesn't necessarily exist, but it does to a certain extent in real life, but not in the fairy tale sort of love is all conquering sort of thing, which I love. I do love it to a degree. I do in fiction. Just it isn't very realistic. So I try to take it down a few notches while still keeping it in there. There's always this kind of crazy sci-fi fantasy concept, and at the core of it is a relationship between real people, which is something I think is sorely missing from a lot of fantasy films. A lot of fantasy literature just feels really bland because it seems so much about the world rather than about the individuals. It's not bad, world building. World building is probably the most important thing that you could do within a science fiction story. But there has to be absolutely an emotional anchor in the middle of it that brings the whole thing in for the reader. And man, oh man, it's a fun process, though. I get so skeptical of myself, though, and this is where I think the problem really lies, is within me. Like thinking, okay, can I actually write something that's genuinely good? Because I give it to people and they tell me it's great and whatever, but yeah, when you're sharing it with like your best buddy and you're sharing with them like a page about the moon or something, they're going to say, oh, this is brilliant. Usually, very very rarely do I get like genuine criticism from people, and when I do, I usually really like look forward to it, unless it's from Brett, in which case it's just kind of like, let's do a dramatic reading of this. This sucks. Dude, this isn't, like, original or anything. You don't have to worry about it. We're just going to do this, like, we don't even have to say it's from you. We can just go ahead and read it, and then we'll all have a good laugh from it. Thank you, Brett. You just, like, ripped a hole through my soul just by doing that. I'm still bitter about that, and that happened, like, a year and a half ago. I'm spreading the drama right now. Spread it. So this is MPig, and I am signing out. I am so sorry about that, Brett. I love you. You know I do. Kind of. A little bit. Okay, maybe not love. Maybe that's too strong of a word. But, yeah, I should probably get to writing now instead of blogging. Ooh, there's a concept.